If we want to learn something, we're certainly going to go to someone or to a place where we think that individual may have mastery of the subject matter, right? And if you really want to learn something, the only way to know it is to... that's common sense. We know that. There's a Zen saying that goes, "The apple your neighbor has eaten cannot be digested by you. And the picture of a cake will never satisfy your hunger." The point is that each of us are seeking what is real and an experience of what is real in our life. And as a matter of fact, that is our purpose. I absolutely believe that our purpose for being here, for being incarnate in the flesh, is to experience all that we are, both seen and unseen. And it's great to see another person do something and really be successful in that area. It's good to read about it, but it really doesn't matter until we can apply it in our own life. Amen? Amen. If you're nervous about saying amen, just say yes or no. Or, oh no. One of the things I love about unity is that's the purpose of unity. Unity was founded as practical Christianity. Unity now considers itself more of practical spirituality because it really understands the limitations that sometimes come along when we use words such as even God, so to speak. But unity is about practicing the truth of who we are. Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, his wife experienced a profound healing. Many of the women in Myrtle Fillmore's life died of tuberculosis. And as a mother of 3 children, she contracted tuberculosis and believed that she was going to die. Doctors told her she was going to die, and she was in the end stages of her life when she heard a concept that changed her life. The concept was, you're a child of God, you do not inherit sickness. And she began to work with that idea to such an extent that she was completely healed. Now, her husband was a farmer, and he could not deny what happened, yet he also could not understand it. And so he made up his mind to go directly to headquarters. He wanted to learn if there's a power and a presence that can heal, if there's something beyond our life, I want my own direct experience. And Charles Fillmore says, all intellectual knowledge serves only one purpose, and that is to move us from our head to our heart. Beyond belief is experience. Knowledge takes root within the heart through experience. Intellectual knowing void of experience does not create change on a cellular level. The knowing of the mind must become the individual's experience. We're talking about change on a cellular level. Have you ever walked into a room where a person was afraid and the minute you walked in you picked up on their fear and all of a sudden your heart starts beating, you feel afraid? Yeah. Have you ever walked into a room where there was a person or a group of people who were at peace and the minute you walked in you felt like everything about you just slowed down? That is not simply a thought. That is a change at a cellular level. And what we're talking about is changing at a cellular level. And so how do we do this? How do we experience our purpose? And that is what we've come here to be. In the Hebrew text, Genesis, there's a story. In the beginning was the Garden of Eden. We've all heard that story. How many trees? There were 2 trees. There are 2 trees in the Garden of Eden. We're told they're the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of life, or knowledge of good and evil. There's life and there's the knowledge of life. But how do you make the leap from life to a knowledge of life? Experience. And so as the story goes, we were placed outside of the garden. And the only way to find ourselves back in and to really know what it is to be at one with the knowledge of life is to experience it. That's what the human journey is all about. So how do we do this? Look at the front of your bulletin. What does it say? Put it to the test. Now, don't you love that picture Giselle found? Do you ever feel like that mountain goat there? Anybody else been between a rock and a hard place, or 2 rocks, and you don't know how in the heaven you're going to get out of there? Yeah. The scriptures say that we're here to work out our own salvation. Now that word salvation is a tricky word because there's a lot of yuck around it, quite frankly. But if you go back to the original Greek, the root word for salvation in Greek is sozo. The root word for salvation in Latin is salus. Both sozo and salus mean wholeness. We're here to work out our own wholeness, our own completeness. It means that we're both the puzzle pieces in the box and we're the picture on the box. You are already the perfect likeness and image of God. And yet, we haven't completely figured out how to show up and own it and access it and be it. Amen? Amen. That's what we're here for, to learn how to do that. So today we explore a concept that is called putting it to the test. Am I on, Jim? I am, thank you. Putting it to the test. Now there's two sides of putting it to the test. The first side of putting it to the test is for us to take dominion over our own life, that we are individuals of free will. The greatest gift we have is our capacity to be a free will agent. That the sun shines, and yet if you choose to stay inside and lock yourself in a dark room, you will never experience the sun, correct? It has nothing to do with the sun. It has to do with our will, what we're deciding to do in response to that. So one side of putting it to the test is to understand that we have free will, we have intention, we have the power to do and be and speak and act. And yet, a lot of the time, we go unconscious. There was a little cartoon where a Sunday school teacher asked her students, "How many of you believe in God?" And all the students said, "I believe, I believe, I believe." And the teacher said, "Why do you believe in God?" And only one little boy raised his hand and he said, "I know why." And she said, "Why do you believe in God?" And he said, "It runs in my family." Well, we inherit, our life is like a quilt of all these hand-me-downs. Did anybody else have hand-me-down clothes and hand-me-down stuff growing up? Yeah, we know what hand-me-downs are. And it wasn't really yours. And so Ram Dass says we all come into this world and we begin our somebody training. The minute you're born, the world begins to tell you, "You're this little somebody, Jennifer, and we're going to tell you who you are and how you look and what works well and what doesn't work well." And then at some point in our life, we realize, well, this is the somebody the world says I am, but who in the world am I? Quite often that sends us to therapy, yes? Or a 12-step program, or who knows where or what, when we're trying to figure out what is me and what is not me. That's very normal, that's very natural, that's part of our spirit. And so to put it to the test is to begin to think about, why do I believe what I believe? Why do I have the spiritual practices that I have? And maybe I just sort of follow the unity, the party line. I come in every Sunday and I say, there's one power, there's one presence in my life and for the universe, yada, 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 yada. And then I leave and I'm like, "Rrr." Anybody else done that? Put it to the test. Let's take a survey. How many of you have something in your house that does not work? How many of us have like 2 things in our house that do not work? How many of us don't know why we have those things that do not work? We don't know. We just have, they could work. Maybe I'll need a part off that old coffee pot that just will not work. Who knows why we have those things, but each of us have things hanging around that do not work. Well, I'm here to invite us to consider that we have a lot of things hanging around in our psyche, in our awareness, that do not work. And so the first part of put it to the test is for us to begin to quicken ourselves, to grow up a little bit more spiritually and be responsible. If I say I believe it, I believe it. If I say I don't know, I don't know. And if I say I don't believe it, I don't believe it. But don't sit on the fence. I believe it, I don't believe it, or I don't know. And in that space, we create the container to learn, to grow. It's to stake your claim for what you believe and always be willing to move the stake. Yes? Because you have discovered something greater.